This video actually took longer than I expected. It has been split into multiple parts. Hello guys, and today I'm going to be ranking Ninjago Seasons based on my opinions of them, obviously. This means that this video will be very opinionated, and if you don't like my opinions, well, you can leave, I guess, if you can't take them that much, and you can't take me joking about them that much. However, I will be probably making a lot of memes, jokes, and whatever, and dunking on seasons I dislike while praising seasons I do like. And with that out of the way, I will now discuss the format of this video, because I'm going to be doing it a bit differently towards normal rankings, tier lists, or whatever. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, spoilers for Seabound and the Island if you haven't watched those already. Here is a general idea of how this video is going to go. Now, do note that this is just a shitty layout made by me, and as you can see, it's just me going through each season by era, and by era I mean it's just the release order. But the reason why I included the eras instead of seasons is, well, it's for, well, one, it's easier to lay out, as I won't have to make infinitesimally smaller season things, so to a point you couldn't see it, and two, because this is not just a ranking of Ninjago seasons. This is a ranking of Ninjago eras and a discussion on basically my views on Ninjago writing and how it's advanced as a whole. So it's not going to simply just be, oh, this season's better than this season. No, I'm going to be discussing how seasons relate to each other, how some seasons might feel more tonally might tonally feel more like another era than it does in the actual era that it released in. Basically general Ninjago discussion on how the writings advance in each and the tone of each season and such. It's not going to just be this season is better than this season. I'm repeating myself, aren't I? This is certainly going to be a running theme at this point, but I'm going to make this clear. This is also a video dedicated to the anniversary of Realms of Ninjago. I'm a little late, but who cares? I just forgot about to say it in the planned segments, and you could see I left it there on the image. Now, to start, let's go to the season quote unquote that started it all, the pilots. Now, before we get into the actual reviewing and discussion and such, you might notice I don't use any footage. Just screen caps and still images or whatever, and memes are added in, whatever. Part of the reason why is because I'm just too fucking lazy, and I am literally only using my phone for this. It's got a pretty good, damn good video editor, but just so you know, don't expect anything too high level from me. I am at the time of recording expecting my computer in about a week. So if some random person sees this on the internet and wants to see better content from me, well, that's when you're gonna get it. Anyways, on to the actual meat of the review. The pilots are kind of hard to place because they're so solid, but they can't really be compared to the rest of the show. For one thing, there's a nostalgia factor, but I don't think that's a part of it at all, at least in this case, because you can't necessarily compare the pilots to the rest of the show because, A, it's 2 episodes, and 2, it does such a good job of doing what it's supposed to do, but that's pretty much all it does, but it does such a good job at it, it's like constant back and forth, and it's pilots, it exists. So I'm never, you're probably just going to, most people probably rank them, pretty high, but nothing, special high, and I'd agree with that. They just go there. They're definitely better than, say, certain seasons, but they're not bad in their own right. They definitely set now onto my favorite part of this. I'm going to mention something here. The pilots have set up with what the direction S1 was going into so well, because S1 just felt like a perfect launching point off of pilots, and that's partly a part of pilots' award. Granted, it's also part of S1's thing, and we'll get there when we get there, but you gotta give credit where credit's due. You can't really talk much about the pilots too much because they're not very much interesting beyond, hey, they did their job well and they started Ninjago well. You can't really do much else with it. Yes, Season 1. Well, let me just get this out of the way before a certain Turkish food item murders me in my sleep. Rise of the Snakes is S tier. Like, anyone... like, it doesn't have the best action, but, like, if you're legitimately prioritizing action over, like, how genuinely wonderful the characters stuff done here is, then I'm, like, of course, action's a part of the show as well, but honestly, it's not bad at all. It's definitely not as bad as Season 2's action, and it's actually pretty damn good in its own right. The main core of what makes Season 1 good, though, is because of how well it uses its time to make everyone a good character. Nia is a good character, which we don't see until later, unfortunately. However, Nia is still a good character in her own right in this season, even if she's not going to be in later seasons, due to certain OG trilogy season that needs discussing after this. But enough of bitching about S2. I've already gone over that. Like, genuinely, it's the only Ninjago season to try and spread its time among, like, a bunch of different characters and not have it backfire. That's an accomplishment. It's not the best. There's Skybound, there's Master of the... Well, I'm spoiling my own opinions already. But it's not the best in my opinion. But what it does do is so great that I don't see how it cannot be put, like, in an S-tier spot. It's just wonderful. And, of course, nostalgia helps it too. It always does. And of course, being the first season of the show, it has the added bonus of not having that many plot holes. Of course, it has some plot holes with the whole Serpentine. How did they survive? How did everyone but how did everyone but the Anaconda survive? Yeah, I mentioned that once, but like there's less glaring plot holes as you see later on with other seasons contradicting past seasons, because this didn't have any past season to contradict. It's wonderful. I don't have anything else to say about it other than it's just the definitive OG Ninjago experience. Do I think it's the definitive Ninjago overall experience? No, not by a long shot. It is, however, an S tier season, and its tone and everything that it goes for is just such a natural evolution from the pilots. Even if Serpentine going from skeletons to snakes is weird, but hey, gotta keep those kids interested somehow. Yeah, this one's going to be the most interesting one so far. So far with both the pilots and S1, I've just been praising them, and they've deserved pretty much praise, and there aren't much flaws, but there are some if you look at the season in a critical light, but this is the first season that I consider to be like very, very flawed to the point that it brings down the experience to a lot, and the fact, and it's the first, like, and of course, it's the first season that might get people raging in my comments, because this, along with Possession and the Oni trilogy, but the Oni trilogy to a lesser extent, and only the first 2 seasons of the Oni trilogy, are considered some of the best seasons of Ninjago by the wider fan base. I'm not talking about the Realms of Ninjago fan base, which is influential on its own, and I probably shares a lot of my opinions and stuff, but this is, like, S2 is the most, at least in years I've seen. I don't know. I've been more reserved into Krusty Server and Ron recently, so I don't know. Opinion could have changed on S2. However, people definitely view S2 as good because of one of the main reasons being its whole, oh yeah, it's the final battle, we're gonna beat the ultimate evil, let's go. That's the general vibe it goes for in the Dark Island arc, which is why it appeals to everyone until people start thinking about it for more than 2 seconds. The main problem with Ultimate Evil is you have to do it right. You have to make you have to balance what you're trying to do with the villain with making it interesting enough to justify him just solely being an ultimate evil, such as an example I've had provided for me by my good buddy Ninfan is the dude from Bionicle. Like, I can't speak to it because I'm just not interested in Bionicle in the slightest, but you can ask him anytime. Just join Ron. He'll probably explain it to you. But, like, the Overlord is not that. He just kind of exists for the appeal of, oh, ultimate evil villain, yeah, let's go. And I haven't even gotten into the first half of the season, but honestly, if I'm being kind of honest, the first half of the season is kind of better. Like, okay, yeah, it's not good, like, there's definitely bad episodes, but like they've had, like, at least with them, they're, like, fun, and they're not, like, trying to take themselves so seriously as it with the Dark Island arc, where it's trying to take itself so extremely seriously with all the, oh, ultimate evil, oh, final battle, oh, shit, like, trying to be overly cool. Like, no. It's just, and with those episodes, there's some value to them, and, like, Garmadon is still a villain. At least he has a presence still, which is more than I could say than for the second half. But honestly, these are the criticisms that that I can just go on and on about, because it's just the most glaring flaws. The action, however, is something that's, I think, nobody can defend. Not even S2 fans. I mean, how do you defend a giant dragon gets blown up from the inside with energy blast, and as some kind of cool thing? Like, when Lloyd said, I don't need a sword, I unironically wished he had one, because it would make things a bit more interesting. Like, a certain season later on, but what makes Overlord versus Lloyd so uninteresting is because, one, there's no really connection between the two, because we're destined to fight. Ugh. Like, the Overlord hasn't done shit to Lloyd until he just possessed Garmadon out of nowhere, which is part of the reason why ultimate evil villains have to be more involved with the protagonist from earlier. They can't just be out of nowhere. They have to be involved from at least the beginning of the plot. Anyway, but I'm going back into the ranting on how to execute ultimate evil trope. But bottom line is getting back to the action. The action is just, and it's like, think about Dragon Ball Z, like the King of Energy Blast based action. Just take that and remove all that is good from it. That is S2's action. Now, like, I think there was literally a clip of, like, the Overlord getting knocked down and falling straight back down. Like, straight up and down. Like, not even, like, moving horizontally in any way. Just vertically up, vertically down. Well, not vertically, but... yeah, vertically down. Like, what? That's just not how physics works. That looks like... it looks like some kind of, like, off jump. Like, someone would do in, like, I don't know, Team Fortress 2 or something? Some crazy gimmick or something? I don't know. Some weird old game physics engine thing than an actual fighting knockback thing. That was bad. That was so bad. That clip was so bad. I don't have it, and I probably can't get it on this phone, but you could probably just look. It's on episode 25 or the 12th episode of season 2. It's not hard to find. All right. Now, there's the one thing I really want to discuss regarding S2, and that is I don't think it belongs with pilots and S1. Yes, they're part of the same plot thread. They're part of the same era. However, S2 lays the groundwork with post-reboot era and a lot of its problems, which is why I saved the Nia complaint, which you guys probably noticed earlier. The Nia complaint is that Nia's just utterly just not, like, she's written in the most sexist way possible in S2, and that's being turned into damsel in distress again, because oh my god, of course she is. And she doesn't really do much out of occasionally mechanicking and Jay, I guess. And that's just going to get worse. And you know damn well why. But to stay on S2, yes. This Nia didn't recover for what S2 did to her character until multiple seasons later. And that's just one of S2's many crimes that carried on into post-reboot era. Because I am a staunch believer in the fact that the singular character focus, came from S2 as well, as long as other things. Actually, so it's a mixed bag. The singular character focus has worked. The singular character focus that was taken from S2's formula worked, like on some cases, which I'll describe later, but in sometimes it just kinda didn't, especially when confronted with problems of like mixed with other problems. You'll see them later, but yeah, S2 is a mixed bag, and that's a lot of the black balls of the bag poured into the bag of the post-reboot era. All right, I've been putting this off long enough. Let's discuss Rebooted. I know one person that likes Rebooted. That's it. A single person. Actually, there's two people, but the second person says that, like, they know that Rebooted is garbage writing. So one person that actually thinks Rebooted is written well. And I think the major reason for why, like, the major stigma in the Ninjago fandom that's, like, unofficial, like, it's the red herring of not red herring. I'm looking for a term here. It's like the scapegoat for why Rebooted is bad. And that is the love triangle. Now, the love triangle, don't get me wrong, is the worst fucking plot point to ever exist in Ninjago. And it is just it's just destroying Nia's character more than S2 already did. However, Rebooted would have a lot of problems without that. And ultimately, that is the main core issue with Rebooted. It just can't, if you find 2 problems, I guarantee you there will be 3 more that you haven't thought about. It's chock full of so many logical inconsistencies, plot holes, dumbass moves, just strange plot directions, and unfulfilled, wasted potential. Just okay. The first problem that Rebooted does that comes to mind is that Rebooted introduced Pixel. Now, Pixel modern, they fixed her up. She's good now. But Pixel now just kind of along with the love triangle existing, it kind of turned female characters, if you count Misako too, since Misako's situation with Wu is weird, but I digress. If you think about this, let's think it for a second. The Pixel and the love triangle created the whole, character has focus season, they must have love interest. Or male character anyways. And that had an effect on the season after this in so many disastrous ways, but again, this is Rebooted. Yeah. So that's what created the trope. Luckily, that trope kind of died out, along with eventually getting subverted 2 times. So, the Ninjago writers probably have realized, oh yeah, that's not a good idea, not in the slightest. But I digress. Pixel and Rebooted is bad. Trash. No. One of the problems that Rebooted has, it's supposed to be a Zane focus season. It just doesn't go anywhere with Zane, though. It's so disconnected on what it wants to do. It wants to give Zane spotlight. It wants to make him wants to focus on his character and make him good or whatever. But it just doesn't know how to do that. The biggest offender of this is the Digiverse episode, right? Where they're going in the video game, blah, 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 Prime Empire before Prime Empire, and Kai's the one struggling with all the video game shit, even though Kai's the one struggling, yeah, which kind of nullifies the complaint that he was stupid in Prime Empires, if you think about it, but I'm not going to go into that. Another season. Kai's stupid in there. He gets all the he has to learn how to use the Digiverse, even though the Digiverse is a stupid direction anyway, because it just makes no sense as the next plot direction. It's just random sci-fi bullshit for the sake of random sci-fi bullshit. Again, I digress though. Let's say that a Digiverse was a good episode or could have had potential. The logical end to an episode focused on Kai literally just getting better at the Digiverse shit is to have him take the role at the end. And knowing how writers treat Kai in later seasons, this is probably what they would do in the later seasons. But even if that would actually be a good writing choice for once. But again, because Zane has to be the focus, he takes the lead and has the big emotional moment for what reason exactly? Yeah, that's all it is. Fake emotion for nothing. That's all Zane is in Esther. It's trying to pull at your heartstrings with a bunch of different directions that don't make sense when you think about it. it's like Zane's character is something pixel, something heart, whatever. That's like, there's no the character arc is so disintegrated. It's not, there's no arc there. There's just a bunch of random, oh yeah, it's Raz's relation to Zane, so it must be good character stuff, right? No, it doesn't. And honestly, again, I don't know what else to say for this. Dropping the character Zane thing, the season as a whole is just a bunch of random sci-fi bullshit for the sake of random sci-fi bullshit. Again, I get it's the theme, but this is the only season where they go so hard on the theme, they just do random plot points. Like, oh yeah, space, inside a video game, even though, like, they just go to different, like, sci-fi places just for the sake of, hey, we did this sci-fi thing. It didn't make sense. It makes the season just more all over the place more. It's just, it's hard, man. It's hard to describe. It's something else, man. All right, let's address the elephant in the room. I am going to do my average impression of the smartass commenter here, but Jaden, but JD, but Zane's sacrifice. That's so sad. How could you possibly slander Rebooted? No. Okay, I give you if you say that, there's three things. Either you just no, two things actually. I was trying to come up with a third thing and never mind. You didn't watch, like, you turned the episode off early and you haven't watched Tournament, but I need you to understand something. When you make a sacrifice scene, when you do a character death, when you do a character something like that, unless it made sense for the plot direction all along, in case you do not immediately subvert it with random, like, the subversions, like with oh yeah, they're still alive, lol. It only really works in certain instances if you, like, keep a character alive after the supposed death. And this is not one of those instances. It's supposed to be a big finale for nothing. Like, it's hard to even, like, sure, the Zane sacrifice scene is really good in a vacuum. In, like, a self-contained jar. Where if, like, we put it in something else that was actually more well-rounded and designed for Zane, then it could actually be really, really good. But the main issue is that Rebooted is not that. Even if we discount the whole oh, he's alive still thing, it Rebooted is just not a good enough build up to this. It just doesn't work at all. Like, it's momentary sadness. It got us as children, but does it really? And I guess that's the point, but I don't know. Ninjago's capable better, man, and we've seen it. All right. Now on to a reprieve from the bad seasons. Tournament of Elements has a really weird relationship with me because like, it's a really good season, but it's got, like, a lot of symptoms of post-reboot that, like, weigh it down from being a goated one. Like, alright, let me just ask you, do you think Skylar's a good character? Hint, the correct answer is no. She's not. Not in the slightest. She just exists as, hey, I'm Kai's, I'm Kai's love interest now because it's his focus. It's marketed as focus, and he needs one. All right, and that's the problem. That's the big fucking issue. Like, the main issue, like, that's the crux of the like, because S3 worked with, well, it didn't work, but because he appealed to children with the whole Zane sacrifice thing, basically, the Ninjago writers thought they could just do the same shit all over again, but for Kai, but move the sacrifice onto, like, Garmadon or something. Actually, I don't think these are the same writers, actually. I'm convinced that David Shane exists. I know he's just only wrote, like, Day of the Departed and Hot Hands of Time, but I'm going to blame every Ninjago flaw on him because the Hagemans of Bragi are based. Okay? Okay, but in all seriousness, it's hard for me to believe that these are the same people as, like, the people who wrote Kai's stuff are the same people who wrote Garmadon, Zane, Cole, Jay in this season. Because everyone but Kai and Nia are written spectacularly in this season. Oh yeah, it's Skylore, but I already explained that she's bad. I'm convinced that there was some kind of, like, some person said, oh yeah, well, the Zane stuff worked in S3, even though it clearly didn't, and just applied it to Kai, but had the sacrifice moved on to Garmadon because it would be too formulaic otherwise or something, I don't know. And the fast sacrifice for Garmadon worked really, really well, and is so much better than Zane's sacrifice because it's like, because it's like, actually built up to and makes sense in the context of the season, as long as Garmadon's arc. It's just frustrating to see, like, Tournament of Elements really marks Kai's descent. Like, Kai was already stupid in S3, but that's because everyone was, to be honest. But, like, Tournament of Elements is, like, the season that basically turned him into, well, if we make him have an edgy blowout or something on someone, it'll be good writing for Kai, right? That's basically his writing principle during almost the entirety of post-reboot. And that's frustrating, and it tells me, and I can trace it back to Tournament, because everyone else was worked well but him, and it relied and they just kind of wrote his character all over the place, just like they did with Zane in S3. And it's frustrating as fuck, because... And the way they tied this all together was by reusing his true potential arc in a the shittiest clip that has ever graced this goddamn fandom, because everyone just wants evil Kai all of a sudden because they think it'll be good. Holy shit. I hate that clip so much. I wish it didn't exist. I wish it did not exist. It is the worst clip to have erased this goddamn fandom, because it's just people want edgy Kai. And I feel like it's just peak. I feel like but it's also a representative of how the writers treat Kai post S1, really. Like, in S2, he just kind of existed. In S3, he was dumb. But in S4, it marks the descent. Which is really sad, because S4 could have treated his character in a really good way. Like, it laid the groundwork for Hands of Time, even if Hands of Time failed to deliver. It just wasn't... It could have done something, but it didn't. And its lack of action has just thrown Kai into, like, hurling into boulders now. Now, I'm going to say that, like, why isn't this happening to Zane? Well, I'd have to do it because Zane was actually well written in S4. I feel like that kind of if not for that, he would have been on the same track as Kai. So what stopped this trend? Of let's just ruin characters and just make their arcs utterly shit and not do anything and just do cheap ass cop-outs for excuse for emotion. You know what? Why am I doing this to tournament? I love tournament. I like like I like tournament a lot. I just hate Kai in tournament, and I've been ranting about Kai in tournament. Why am I doing this to myself? Okay, like I'm going to put this up there. It's like 6th place for me. It's below Seabound, and not in S tier where the 4 greats are, but I do love tournament. I just hate Kai in tournament, and I hate that that's where he just dropped off entirely. Like S3, I can't blame S2 or S3 because S2, he was just a side character. S3, he just wasn't. No one was a good character, so yeah. I'm going to get brutally murdered by Kai fans out there. Guys, if you see my dead body, report it, vote out Dovdov. I swear I'm gonna get murdered. Alright. Now that my regular Among Us quota has been filled, let's talk about the next season in this trend, Possession. You know, Possession is mediocre. I think I'm gonna get that out of the way. Like, it's another one of those seasons that's hailed on a silver platter by the Ninjago community. And honestly, that's just and part of that's probably because Moro just fits into one of those tropes that must be good, right? Because it's one of those tropes. But being honest here, it's not a bad season by any means, but it's not really a good one either. Like, my main issues with it take form of Nia and Moro. Let's talk about... Okay, assuming I won't be murdered by Navzi and... I'm assuming I'm not going to be murdered by half of Realms of Ninjago for daring to utter Moro's name in a negative connotation. Let me just talk about Nia first. See, Nia's like the main issue I have with Possession. It's just like Moro is also like one of the bigger issues, but it's like everything that has made her character like ruined after S2 kind of pinnacles in a weird way here. Because on surface, it's like, oh wait, she's finally not being treated like Jay's girlfriend or something. She's finally going to get a role on the team. And like, everyone's smiling. But in the entire season, she doesn't get a role on the team. She's just kind of there. Like, she's training, which, let me emphasize something. The male ninja never had to train to unlock their true potentials. They had to train to buff up, get stronger, but Nia was already strong. Nia was already strong because, like, she was Samurai X. She could still fight shit with and even without her mech, she could still fight shit without her mech. I don't know how to. I don't know what else to. Yeah, she definitely she definitely does have already was fit, so there was no reason for her to train because all the male ninja, I reiterate, unlock their true potentials in battle, and that worked for everyone. But the thing is, people bend over backwards to defend Nia not being able to participate in the team. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. There's no reason given. I don't care if you say, oh, well, she's the water ninja, she has to train. What said makes water different from any other secondary element? Huh? At least with the green ninja thing, he was literally a kid. Like, he had to train. He was, like, literally a fucking kid. And the green ninja element was, the green ninja power was shown to be different at multiple times, because it was literally just him stealing their elements in a weird way. And let's not even get into the fucking connotations of how, like, elements work in season 2 versus, like, posts S4. It's crazy, man. Like, but you know what I mean. With Nia was just wielding another one of those elements, like secondary elements. It doesn't matter if she was specifically the water ninja or whatnot. There was no explanation given. There was no reason why the writers had to put her there. There's nothing other than she's the girl ninja, so of course she has to be the one who trains before she can unlock her true potential. Like, remember, true potential has to do with your mind and the obstacles in your mind, not in your physical obstacles. So of course, training physically is going to help you. Remember, despite Wu literally saying that peak physical condition and unlocking your true potential have nothing to do with each other. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. It's just insane. Like, there's just no justification you could put for other than, well, alright, let's get on to Moro before I spontaneously explode. Alright, I know the Moro simps are gonna get on me for this, but Moro simps, you may simp for a character, but he's a bad written character. I should know. I simp for a piece of cardboard protagonist who literally is just a self-insert. So don't come up to me, bro. The thing is with Moro's character, he's one of those tropes that thinks, oh yeah, he must be well. He's a strange student of Wu, come back from the dead. Or not the dead, but the cursed, but essentially the dead. Right? Like, he must be good. The thing is, like, of course Ninjago wants to go the redemption route for him, which is what they try to do at the end of Possession. Right? But the thing is, the entirety of Possession, like pretty much every season in post-reboot before this, doesn't build up to this shit in the slightest. Like, Moro just suddenly gets redeemed out of nowhere. He didn't show a single sign of redemption, of, like, questioning anything or having any regrets or anything. He just kind of like, oh yeah, I am suddenly going to respect you now. I'm suddenly not going to not be mad at you anymore. I'm suddenly going to now do the right thing out of nowhere. Listen, Moro Sims, I get he's hot and all, as hot as Lego can be, but you gotta admit, that writing, though, that bad. That isn't even getting into the whole, like, the real heart of Possession's issue. It's just that it's like, a lot of the stuff it does is, why? Like, the 16 realms are cool. Cloud Kingdom isn't. Cloud Kingdom sucks. And I do like that they, like, this is the last season they do the last season that truly involves Destiny to a large degree. Basically says, oh yeah, we can just literally rebel against it. But the idea of a bunch of people in the clouds writing out destinies is stupid. I'm just glad that they've abandoned the Destiny concept post Skybound. Speaking of Skybound, I need to end. Like, this is taking a lot longer than I thought, so I'm probably gonna split this into multiple parts. And this is I'm going to end with Skybound because I need to end with a good season or I'm gonna go insane. I love Skybound. It used to be my favorite season before a certain season came out. But I think the main reason why it so excels in such a weirdly mediocre era of Ninjago is that it is that is the and why looking back, it's probably the main thing that was able to re-anchor Ninjago and prepare it for the Oni trilogy, even with Hands of Time being Hands of Time. But again, irrelevant, is that it basically took every issue that post-reboot has had and specifically countered it. Post-reboot issue has an issue of not building up the things in its endings, and Skybound has been cluing you into its ending since the Rising action, and which is why it drives me up the wall with laughter when people complain about Skybound's ending. Oh, everything's reset. Well, bitch ass. There's worse endings out there. Literally, look at Rebooted, Tournament, and not Tournament. Sorry, not Tournament. What? Not Tournament. Why did I even say Tournament? Okay. Literally, look at Rebooted and Possession. Zane and Moro. Those two. Those are bad endings. Those are bad endings. Skybound literally builds this ending up from the Rising action all the way to cluing you in with the whole thing with why am I drawing a blank? This happens often to me. Old Lloyd, you know what I'm talking about, in Wishmasters, which basically that's how it clues you in, and the season starts to revolve around said, oh, there's some mysterious wish that's gonna beat him, and by the time that mysterious wish is revealed, it's not what anyone was expecting, which was pretty obvious in its own right when you actually consider consider the implications of turning Nauticon into a human or anything but a djinn. But again, shrugging that off. Okay, let me just get myself centered. Skybound, absolutely, and alright, I already discussed how it destroys the whole rebooted trope of just not building up its endings. But the other thing is, Nia just gets absolutely a character, repair to upgrade. Sure, she gets back together with Jay in this thing. But in this season, it's out of her own choice. Eventually, because the whole season is with the two going back and forth, and Jay learning to leave the choice to her as her, because that's her, and not some destiny bullshit. And that's what that's what the season revolves around. It is Nauticon wants to rob Nia of choice, and Jay is learning to give Nia choice, to allow Nia to be her own individual, and she does still harbor feelings for him. She how could some fucking device from season 3 ruin that? But she just didn't want that to make her seem less. I'm not the best at wording this, by the way. I don't know, I stutter a lot, but the whole season revolves around Nia being allowed to choose for herself, and that just really just is a fuck you to the writing of Rebooted and Possession and S2, and it's great. I'm living for it. God, I am not the Skybound expert. Literally join Realms of Ninjago, talk and ping Angry Bird Star in Skybound. Just do that. Like, I will probably talk more on my favorite season, but I just needed to talk about a good. Now, what I want to say is that it didn't necessarily end some of the post-reboot traits and a lot of things that came out of this era at all. But it did just make a really good one-off story that a lot of Ninjago fans don't appreciate because the ending, or Nia's a bitch, which is just proving why the fandom's bad. But anyways, as I was saying, I'm easy going off. I have a tendency to go off on tangents. Skybound good. It helped it helped just a lot of things that had been damaged by Season 2 rebooted in possession. Unfortunately, it didn't fix Sky's character, but like it's one season. What can you do? And there was Hands of Time, which kind of caused some of these issues to resurface, just a little, but like not as much. And Hands of Time's bad on its own flaws more often, and I will talk about that later in the part 2, but for now, these have been my little thoughts on every season from Season 1 to Season 6. I will make part 2 later. I did not expect my thoughts for each one to go this long, especially since this Season 1 pilots in Season 1 were relatively short, but I guess I really just hate rebooted Possession and Tournament more than I thought, I guess. And I don't even hate Tournament. What am I saying?